There's a moment in every connection where a man starts to decide how seriously he sees you, not just as someone he's attracted to, but as someone he deeply respects, admires, and ultimately prioritizes. That moment isn't determined by how beautiful you are, how fun you are, or how much you give. It's determined by how you speak. The way you express yourself sets the tone for how he experiences your value. And when you say the right thing, not to manipulate, but to reflect your true worth, you immediately stand out from the rest. This isn't about playing games or putting on a performance. It's about understanding the quiet power of your words when they come from a place of dignity, self-respect, and emotional intelligence. Because when you talk like a woman who knows who she is, a man has no choice but to see you as a queen. When you speak from confidence instead of insecurity, everything about the dynamic with a man shifts. Most people, especially in romantic contexts, don't realize how much of their communication is shaped by fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of not being enough, fear of being abandoned. And when that fear drives how you speak to someone, it leaks through, even when you're trying to be charming or agreeable. It can sound like over-explaining, like nervously justifying your needs, or even like constantly seeking reassurance. And the truth is, a man can feel it. He may not be able to explain it, but he senses when a woman is unsure of herself, even if her words sound sweet or affectionate. There's a difference in energy. Confidence is calm, grounded, and secure. Insecurity is anxious, frantic, and seeking approval. Imagine a scenario where a woman tells a man how much she likes spending time with him. There are two ways she could say it. One way is from insecurity. I really enjoy being with you. I hope you feel the same. I don't know, maybe I'm being too much. I just really don't want to mess this up. The other is from confidence. I really enjoy spending time with you. You bring out a side of me that feels alive, and I value that. The words might be similar in intention, but the energy behind them is worlds apart. The first makes the man feel pressure. It sounds like he's being asked to validate her. The second makes him feel appreciation, and more importantly, it reveals her self-awareness. It shows that she knows her time, her feelings, and her experience are valuable, and that's magnetic. Speaking from confidence isn't about arrogance or indifference. It's not about pretending you don't care or acting like you're better than him. It's about knowing that your worth isn't dependent on his reaction. When a woman walks into a conversation with the mindset that she already has value before he says or does anything, she carries herself differently. She's not performing for his approval. She's not anxiously scanning for signs of rejection. She's present. She listens deeply. She expresses clearly, and she communicates from a place of peace. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop asking yourself, how can I make him like me? And instead ask, does this connection align with the kind of relationship I want? That question alone changes your tone. It changes your standards, and it changes how you speak to a man. Suddenly, you're no longer trying to win him over. You're trying to see if he shows up in a way that deserves you. This doesn't mean you speak with cold detachment. On the contrary, it allows you to be warm, kind, and open without overextending yourself. Because you're not giving from a place of desperation, you're sharing from a full cup. When a man hears a woman speak with confidence, he subconsciously feels that she's not emotionally dependent on him for her self-worth. That's incredibly attractive. It makes him curious. It makes him want to rise to her level. It makes him ask himself, what do I need to do to be worthy of this kind of energy? And that is how you shift the power dynamic. Not by playing hard to get, but by genuinely knowing that you are already enough, whether he realizes it or not. Confidence also allows you to express your needs without guilt. A woman who doubts her value often suppresses her standards out of fear that she'll scare a man away. She might avoid bringing up how she wants to be treated because she doesn't want to seem too much or difficult. But a woman who speaks from confidence doesn't see her needs as burdens. She sees them as a reflection of her emotional clarity. She can say something like, I love spending time with you, and I also value consistency. That's something that makes me feel safe in a relationship. That kind of statement doesn't come with pressure, it comes with honesty. And a man who respects her will respond with respect. A man who doesn't won't last. And that's a good thing. There's also something deeply attractive about a woman who doesn't try to overcompensate. She doesn't need to impress with grand gestures or prove she's chill enough to be liked. She just is. And in being herself, without filtering everything to match what she thinks a man wants, she becomes unforgettable. Men are drawn to women who are unapologetically themselves. Not loud, not boastful, not aggressive, just real. And that realness only comes when you trust that you're worthy of being seen exactly as you are. Even in moments of vulnerability, confidence can guide you. It's okay to admit when something hurts or when you feel disappointed, but when you speak from confidence, you don't lose yourself in the emotion. You can say, that hurt me because I expected better from this situation, and I know what I deserve. That sentence alone tells a man everything he needs to know. It says you're not afraid to be open, but you're also not going to tolerate behavior that diminishes your worth. Ultimately, the way you speak to a man is a mirror of how you feel about yourself. When your words come from a place of confidence, you teach him how to see you. You teach him how to treat you. And you create a relationship dynamic that's not based on performance, pressure, or people pleasing, but on mutual respect. You're no longer chasing a connection. You're standing still, rooted in your power, and watching who's strong enough to meet you there. And that, more than anything, is what makes him see you as a queen. One of the most powerful forms of feminine strength is selective vulnerability. It's not about building walls or shutting people out. It's about knowing when to open the door and to whom. When you make a man earn access to your emotional world, you instantly change how he sees you. Why? Because men value what they have to work for. It's human nature. When something is handed to us without effort, we tend to take it for granted. But when something is revealed layer by layer with trust and intention, it becomes rare. And rare things are cherished. The mistake many women make is believing that vulnerability equals instant connection. So they lead with it. They open up too soon, share their wounds too quickly, or expose their feelings without seeing if the man has earned that level of emotional access. This isn't because they're weak, it's because they're craving intimacy. They want to feel close, to feel seen, but there's a difference between offering vulnerability and using vulnerability as a way to fast-track closeness. And when it's used as a shortcut, it backfires. When you give a man access to your heart before he's shown that he values your presence, you take away his opportunity to rise into the role of someone who protects and cherishes you. He doesn't get to earn it. He just receives it. And often, that early overexposure makes him pull back. Not because he's cruel or dismissive, but because the emotional weight feels out of sync with the level of commitment or connection that's been built so far. But when you hold your emotional world with reverence, when you see your vulnerability as something sacred, you naturally become more discerning. You ask yourself, has he shown me that he can handle my heart with care? Has he demonstrated consistency, respect, and emotional safety? These questions help you calibrate when and how much to reveal, not as a strategy to manipulate, but as a way to protect the parts of you that are soft and precious. Because that's what a queen does. She doesn't let everyone into her inner chambers. Only the worthy get that far. Man is wired to pursue what he respects. So when you let him work for your trust, your time, and your openness, you actually give him a mission. You create a sense of healthy tension, the kind that makes him want to show up better, prove himself, and win access to your world. That pursuit creates emotional investment. It deepens the bond, and more importantly, it allows you to witness how he shows up under pressure. Whether he's consistent or only charming at the beginning, whether he respects boundaries or tries to bypass them. This is where your power lies. By not rushing to be understood, you invite curiosity. By not handing over your heart like a free sample, you elevate its value. And by making a man earn his place in your life, you raise the standard of the relationship before it even begins. The truth is, a man can tell the difference between a woman who needs attention and a woman who is choosing connection. The first comes from emptiness. The second comes from fullness. And that difference is everything. When you slowly reveal your emotions in a way that's intentional and grounded, it builds trust. It allows him to meet you where you are. It also sets a precedent for emotional safety because it shows that you are someone who doesn't just speak to be heard, but someone who shares to build something real. A queen knows that her vulnerability is a gift, not a bargaining chip, not a tactic, not a cry for validation. And when a man receives that gift at the right time, it feels like being invited into a world that very few get to see. That's what makes it powerful. Even in conflict or difficult conversations, selective vulnerability plays a key role. Instead of emotionally unloading or spiraling, a confident woman might say, "I'm feeling hurt right now, but I want to understand what's happening before I react. I care about this and I need to know we're on the same page." That kind of vulnerability is strong. It's not needy, it's not defensive, and it doesn't. It invites clarity and connection without losing self-respect. And that's rare. That kind of emotional maturity is what makes a man stop and truly listen. The goal isn't to be a mystery forever. It's not about playing hard to get or being cold. It's about creating a pace that matches the depth of the connection. When a man earns your trust over time, it builds something stable. Rushing into emotional intimacy doesn't make the relationship grow faster. It usually makes it fall apart sooner. But measured vulnerability builds emotional intimacy with integrity. It allows you to grow together instead of burning out before the bond is even formed. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about making a man earn access to your vulnerability is that you feel safer too. You avoid the emotional hangover that comes from oversharing and then wondering if you did too much. You avoid the disappointment of trusting someone who didn't deserve it. And most of all, you preserve your emotional energy for someone who has earned the right to witness your full self. So if you want a man to see you as a queen, don't hand over your heart like a free gift. Treat it like the treasure it is. Show him through your words and your pace that your softness is reserved for someone who shows up with consistency, respect, and care. And when he does earn that access, he'll know that what he has is special. He'll know he's not just with someone who's emotionally open, he's with someone who chose to let him in. That's not just attractive, that's unforgettable. When you frame your boundaries as standards instead of threats, everything changes. Not just how a man sees you, but how he responds to you. Most people have been taught to express their boundaries through ultimatums, warnings, or emotional outbursts. If you don't call me back, I'm done. If you can't treat me right, I'm leaving. If you talk to me like that again, it's over. While those reactions may feel powerful in the moment, they often come from frustration, not grounded confidence. And the truth is, they usually backfire. When you threaten someone to change, they may comply temporarily, but they don't change from the inside out. They adjust their behavior to avoid consequences, not because they've grown to understand and respect your needs. But when you express a boundary as a personal standard, something you live by, regardless of how they respond, you're no longer relying on fear or control, you're simply living your truth. And that's what commands respect. Imagine you're dating someone and they start becoming inconsistent. Maybe they stop texting as much or don't make time for you like they used to. A woman acting from fear might send a dramatic message, demand attention, or threaten to walk away. But a woman rooted in her standards would say something much simpler, like, I value consistency and effort in the people I'm building with. When that's missing, I naturally start pulling my energy back. That one sentence says it all. No anger, no neediness, just a clear expression of what she allows into her life. When you speak like that, you're not asking someone to meet your standard. You're stating what is. It's not up for negotiation. You're not asking for their permission or hoping they'll agree. You're simply sharing the framework that shapes your life and relationships. That's what boundaries truly are, the non-negotiable conditions of your peace. And when you communicate them with calm certainty, you don't need to raise your voice or beg to be understood. Your tone alone carries power. A man instantly senses when a woman holds herself to a higher standard, not just with him, but with herself. And that changes how he approaches her. He knows he can't rely on charm or surface level gestures. He has to bring his best, not because she asked, but because she inspires that in him. And that inspiration doesn't come from threats or ultimatums. It comes from clarity. It comes from a woman who knows herself so well that she would rather be alone than in a relationship that makes her shrink. This kind of self-respect is rare. Most people bend their standards out of fear of loss. They think, if I ask for too much, he'll leave. If I push back, he'll find someone easier. But when you live in fear of someone leaving, you're not in your power. You're in survival mode. And relationships built from survival mode never last. They drain you. They force you to abandon yourself to keep someone else around. That's not love. That's emotional compromise. And it's the opposite of royalty. A queen doesn't ask someone to treat her right. She shows what right looks like by how she treats herself. She doesn't need to scream her worth. Her presence says it before she opens her mouth. When a man tries to cross a boundary, she doesn't fight or debate. She simply says, that doesn't work for me. And if he continues, she walks. not out of drama, not to punish, but because her standard has already decided the outcome. This approach doesn't just teach men how to treat you, it teaches you how to honor your own voice. Every time you uphold your standard, you build a deeper relationship with yourself. You start to trust that you won't abandon your values just to keep someone else comfortable. And that trust becomes the foundation for every healthy connection you create moving forward. The beauty of expressing boundaries as standards is that it removes the need for confrontation. You're not attacking anyone, you're not blaming, you're simply stating what aligns with your life and what doesn't. I don't entertain inconsistent energy. I don't stay where I'm not respected. I don't chase love. I attract it through alignment. These aren't threats. These are declarations. And declarations are rooted in they say, this is who I am and I live accordingly. You don't have to say a lot. In fact, the more grounded you are in your standard, the less you'll feel the need to explain. Boundaries are not rules you force on others, they're decisions you make for yourself. And when someone violates them, you don't need to beg them to understand. You simply make a choice, adjust the dynamic, or adjust their access to you. The reality is, the right man doesn't fear your boundaries, he's drawn to them. Because they signal that you're not looking to be saved or fixed, you've already done the inner work. You're not bringing chaos, confusion, or emotional instability, you're bringing clarity. And that clarity becomes the safety net he didn't even know he needed. Men don't want someone who says yes to everything just to be liked. They want someone who knows when to say no, even if it costs the connection. Ultimately, the way you express your standards sets the tone for every relationship you have. When you frame your boundaries as natural extensions of your self-worth, not as defenses, not as punishments, you elevate the entire dynamic. You stop trying to control others and start focusing on what you can control: your choices, your energy, your standards. So speak from that place. Don't beg to be respected. Live in a way that makes respect the only possible response. Let your actions match your words. Let your silence speak when necessary. And always remember, the moment you stop making threats and start living by standards, you stop chasing validation and start attracting devotion. That's the shift that turns attention into commitment. That's the shift that makes a man see you as a queen. There is a profound difference between needing a man and choosing a man. When you operate from need, your energy communicates dependence, urgency, and sometimes even desperation. But when you operate from choice, your presence feels like power. That distinction is everything. A man knows when he is being selected versus when he's being clung to. And when a woman moves through life with the confidence of knowing she doesn't need him, but wants him because she sees something meaningful in the connection, that's when he feels truly honored. Choosing a man, not needing him, is about recognizing your completeness. It's about realizing that a relationship isn't what gives you identity. It's something that adds to the beautiful life you're already building. When your energy says, I'm fulfilled, I'm proud of who I am, and I welcome someone who aligns with that, you become instantly more attractive. You're no longer someone looking for validation. You're someone looking for compatibility. And that shift in mindset is what separates a woman who settles from a woman who inspires. Many women fall into the trap of believing that being chosen by a man is the ultimate validation of their worth. So they chase it. They overextend. They mold themselves to his preferences. They accept breadcrumbs, believing that something is better than nothing. But the truth is, when you're operating from a place of emptiness, you'll accept a lot of things that don't actually serve you. You'll mistake attention for affection and affection for love. And in doing so, you lose your voice. You lose your power. You begin shrinking just to fit into a relationship that was never designed to hold the fullness of who you are. But when you see yourself as the chooser, everything changes. You no longer accept love that comes with confusion, inconsistency, or emotional games. You ask different questions. Not how do I get him to like me, but does he reflect the kind of partnership I deserve? You start paying attention to the way he communicates, how he follows through, whether his values align with yours. You stop being impressed by effort in the beginning and start valuing effort over time. You understand that chemistry isn't enough. It has to be paired with character. This mindset doesn't just protect your peace, it elevates your standards. Because now, you're not chasing love, you're attracting it. You're not auditioning for someone's attention, you're observing whether they qualify for your investment. This doesn't mean you're cold or distant, it means you're intentional. You know what you bring to the table, and you know that your presence, your energy, and your loyalty are valuable. So you don't give them away lightly. And here's the truth. When a man senses that you choose to be with him, not because you need to, but because you genuinely want to, it awakens something in him. It challenges him to step up. It makes him want to earn that space in your life because he knows it's not guaranteed. He knows that your love is a gift, not a need. And that distinction creates mutual respect, which is the foundation of any real connection. A woman who moves from choice doesn't overreact when a man pulls away. She doesn't spiral if she doesn't get a text back immediately. She doesn't chase validation. She observes. She notices how a man handles distance. She watches how he shows up after conflict. She pays attention to whether he's emotionally available or just temporarily interested. Because she's not investing based on potential, she's investing based on reality. This doesn't mean she never feels deeply. In fact, she might feel more deeply than most, but she doesn't allow her emotions to override her discernment. She allows herself to want him, to care for him, even to fall for him, but always with the understanding that if he stops showing up with love, consistency, and respect, she will walk away, not because she's heartless, but because her self-respect has no price tag. That's the woman who holds his attention long term. That's the woman who makes him rethink every past relationship because she's not reactive, she's responsive. She doesn't beg for love, she inspires it. She doesn't demand loyalty, she evokes it through her presence. And she doesn't cling to someone who isn't. What makes a woman unforgettable isn't just her beauty or her intelligence or her sensuality. It's the energy she carries when she knows she is enough without anyone else completing her. It's the way she smiles at herself in the mirror, how she chooses joy in her solitude, how she builds her life like she's the love of her own life. That kind of woman doesn't chase, she magnetizes. She draws in the kind of man who doesn't want to possess her, but to join her. Choosing a man instead of needing one also brings you emotional freedom. You stop fearing abandonment because you know your world doesn't fall apart when someone leaves. You stop settling for emotional crumbs because you know what a full love looks like. You stop doubting your worth because you've built an identity that doesn't rely on someone else's approval. That freedom makes you lighter. It makes your love feel less like pressure and more like a blessing. It makes your relationship a choice you renew every day, not a lifeline you cling to out of fear. And that's the kind of love that lasts. Not the one that's rooted in dependency, but the one that's born out of mutual admiration, emotional maturity, and shared vision. A queen doesn't wait to be rescued. She builds her kingdom. And when a man comes along, she doesn't hand over the keys, she invites him in. If he proves worthy. So say this with your energy, even before your words. I don't need you to complete me. I'm whole. But if you're the right man, I will choose you every day. Not out of lack, but out of love. Not because I have to, but because I want to. That is the voice of a woman who commands respect. That is how you speak when you know your worth. And that is how a man sees you. Not as someone desperate to be chosen, but as someone too powerful not to choose. That's when he sees you as a queen.